Hi, everyone. This is our June 18th, 2024 provider info share. And we have folks continuing to come in, so we're admitting them as they roll in. But today's info share is really dedicated to the fact that our PHE flexibilities are concluding. So we are ending that specific, um, it's a big change in our operations to discontinue those flexibilities. And so today we're going to take some time to really make sure we're on the same page regarding the flexibilities that are ending on June 30th, because come July 1, your expectations for delivery of service do change. And so we want to spend some time to go over that information. We did send an email soliciting questions from registered participants in our provider info share, and we did get a couple of really great questions that we're going to have to research. Those questions were specific around the realm of um, essentially powers of attorney and which forms to use in situations where you had a legally responsible individual working as a paid provider and who signs the timesheet. We're looking into those questions for you, but I wanted to express my gratitude for your thoughts on how these new processes are going to be operationalized and how we'll make them work as we move forward. So thank you for those questions. We will work on those for you and hopefully have an update this upcoming at the next provider info share, or we may share that information through email if you've registered for this um, session. So what are we covering? We're going to start by first, I'm going to drop into the chat the PHE FAQs that were um, recently distributed. We also have a director's memo that came out as well that we're going to be recirculating shortly. There was an a element of it that needed adjusted. So what am I putting at? I have a couple of things. First, I have the FAQ. So I'm sending that now. That document looks like this. I'm going to scroll up to the top here, and it was revised May 30th. Please take a look at this document in depth to the services that specifically apply to you. We're going to do essentially a review, a review of that information, a summary today, so that you have in the back of your mind some specific pieces that you know you should probably go look at in order for you to operate as a provider. Okay, so that's kind of our goal, is to make sure we identify specific flexibilities that are ending that are going to have an impact on your role as a provider. So that's one attachment. The next attachment that I'm going to be dropping into the chat is a easy read document that is specific to legal responsible individuals as paid providers. Dropping this in, it's intended to give some very clear context and can be helpful as a family, as a tool to talk with families. It looks like this. So you see it on the screen. It just dropped it in, and it really covers what is going to be allowed after June 30th. Okay, so you can see it's a pretty straightforward document of who is a legally responsible individual, what services they can deliver, and then the exception if there's a court decree involved. Okay, so we have that document for you in this easy read format so that you can circulate it as needed. And so, that being said, I'd like to turn to our agenda and also put that into our chat. One moment. That's in there for you as well. And let's start from the top of this document. What's ending June 30th? So really want to make sure we really keyed into the following items stop June 30th, meaning that your agency practices, your documentation, your billing should reflect the discontinuation of specific actions. We're going to go through those. This can be a bit course of the pandemic. Some practices faded as we went. So today, when I stop on each one of these pieces, if you have questions or if something in the back of your mind kind of is firing about something that was part of the pandemics, part of the COVID flexibilities, you have questions about that, or if you need additional clarification, please drop it into the chat or raise your hand so that we can have that conversation. Our goal today is to ensure that you understand these pieces inside and out so that you're ready to implement this change, okay? So what's ending? Legally responsible individuals will no longer be able to provide respite in DAHAB unless there's language in a court decree that says that it's okay. Okay. LRIs, so that's legally responsible individuals, have not been allowed to deliver personal care services since November. That specific flexibility ended earlier this past fall. Additional amounts of respite, DAHAB, and chore during the PHE is no longer allowed. If you have an individual that has a support plan that goes beyond the June 30th timeframe that has services over the typical amount for the purposes of COVID related, which was pandemic related, you do need to file an amendment to reflect that that additional usage will be discontinued. So again, for respite, DAHAB, and chore, if additional services were authorized for the purpose of related to uh, pandemic related, COVID related purposes, like you needed additional cleaning because of health concerns, making sure the environment was sanitary for the person because of they were susceptible to COVID-19, then that would be a case where you would need to file an amendment to ensure that all parties are clear that the service amounts are going back to their original amounts. If you have a situation where you're not really sure if an amendment is required, like maybe you do have over that amount, but it's not specifically to COVID, please feel free to connect with SDS training so we can help make sure that you're in compliance with that piece so that we can look at the case and verify if action is needed. Okay, so we can support you in determining if an amendment is needed. You can do that by emailing SDS training or by coming to our office hour this Thursday, either from 8 to 9 or 3 to 4. How are we doing on questions, Kat? It looks like our chat is still empty.
There's no questions for now.
For now. Okay. And we can always circle back to different ideas if needed, okay? So it's not like we say it once and it's done. If you have things come up, we can go back to a topic. The next big change is that distance delivery is now limited to 10% for the following services: DAHAB, employment services, and IAT, that's intensive active treatment. There is no need to submit an amendment that your team is now going to be offering limited amounts of distance delivery for these services. However, the agency should be documenting their amount of delivery so that they can demonstrate that they are staying within that 10%. Okay, so documenting and keeping track of the use of distance delivery for day hab, employment services, and intensive active treatment. Next, you're no longer able to deliver via distance delivery adult day, in-home supports, and supported living. So the practice of using distance delivery methods for those services will be discontinued on July 1. They will be done. So, recapping those two separate ideas, distance delivery can be offered for up to 10% of the total service for day hab, employment services, and IAT. Distance delivery is discontinued for adult day, in-home supports, and supported living. So that is the recap of what's ending this month. Let's now talk about what's starting or continuing as a flexibility. So legally responsible individuals can provide services for in-home supports, supported living, and community first choice PCS. In-person assessments have already been resuming, but they will officially be resumed on July 1. They will now be the preferred way of conducting a assessment, either a level of care for nursing facility level of care or for ICF IID. Those assessment styles will both go towards in person. There may be times when we do have teleassessments occur, especially for observations through the ICAP process, or other instances when someone is in a rural remote environment. Those situations are identified in the care coordinator can work with the assessment teams to ensure that all required documentation is provided to conduct those assessments. So the next big change is that care coordination contact regulations are going into effect. This is important for provider agencies to be aware of because there's going to be a return to monitoring the delivery of services in a service location. So we wanted to take some time today to specifically detail about care coordination contacts. For the waiver types of ALI, APDD, CCMC, or IDD, 2 monthly contacts are required. Those contacts can be done in person, by phone, a phone call, or distance delivery through a HIPAA compliant platform. You are required as a care coordinator to meet the person at least once every 6 months and more as needed. Of those 2 contacts, one in person should be at the individual's home, and the other should be at a place where the services are delivered. For ISW, the only significant change is that 1 contact is required per month. For a CFC only plan, this means a plan, a a individual that only has a CFC package, they can establish a within their CFC support plan how many contacts are going to be conducted in a year. So again, why are we talking about this in the provider info share? Because providers can expect care coordinators to be making contact when you're delivering a service at least once during the year. So be prepared for that. Of course, as planning teams, it's very helpful for care coordinators to let agencies know that they're coming, just so that it's helpful to connect. Uh, our RSLs, so our group homes, our assisted living homes, they should anticipate care coordinators making distance delivery contacts. And we ask that our homes assist in making sure to support distance delivery of those care coordination contacts. Part of settings requirements is that individuals have access to internet and communication devices. And it is going to be important for planning teams to work together to support each other in making contact with the person every month. Okay, so that's a really critical piece that as a team we want to ensure is happening. All right, giving a moment here to see if there are any questions. No questions yet. Okay, we're going to move down to the next big shift, and that's regarding employment services. So our program administrators do need to adhere to the current NCES training requirements. However, our job coaches and employment service specialists have until July 1 of 2025, so 1 year out, or within 1 year of their date of hire to obtain their NCES training certificate or an equivalent training. We have received a lot of questions on what would be an equivalent training to the NCES training. It isn't always, there's limited seating available for that training. So what is an alternative equivalent? That equivalent would be the Association of People Supporting Employment First, APSES, Certified Employment Support Professional for CESP. That has the distinctions here is that it covers similar content, but it does have different prerequisites, fees, and ongoing training requirements. So it's going to be up to the individual that's getting this training, either the program administrator or the job specialist, job coach, or employment service specialist to decide which one of these trainings meets their goals for their career. You can click on that link to get a breakdown on what the difference is between NCES and CESP so that you can make that determination for yourself. So Kim's put in there that there's a revised employment COP that are anticipated to come out prior to July 2025 that may change this requirement. That is true. But we're not able to speak to that as far as what will be entailed. It could be that employment services, those COPs could change. We can only speak as trainers and CC support at this time to what we currently know is required based on the regulations. So as an agency, as an employment services agency, it would be very wise to look at your staff's credentialing and make sure that you look for opportune times to stagger training requirements so that your staff is slowly acquiring that training and that you're not having all of your staff complete it all at once. So please take that into consideration so that you can meet that requirement within the next year. Okay, that is the fast version of the FAQs. I say it's the fast one because it's the summary. I know you're probably like, that was a summary? Yes, you can go into much greater detail within the FAQs that I dropped into the chat and that there was an e-alert on. There will be an additional e-alert coming out soon regarding the memo for services that are currently available but do not have regulatory packages set yet. And so those include um, especially impact our legally responsible individuals for supported living, in-home supports, and community first choice personal care services. So what can you do in the meantime until those regulations are completed or finished? As agencies, please continue to deliver high quality services aligned with your operations manuals that you submitted that you were certified under. When it comes to hiring an individual that is a legally responsible individual, follow all of your hiring practices that have been identified in your operations and procedures that you certified with. So that would mean background checks, training requirements, all of those should currently align with what you have within your agency's operations that you've been certified through. At this point, that is all the content that I have for you today. The floor is open for you to ask follow-up questions about this information if you would like. We may not be able to answer all of the questions that you might have, and that's okay. Really, our intention is to start the conversation so that we can either do research to figure out what the answer is and get clarification if needed. I'm on the wrong document. Want to make sure that you have the reminder of our individual and family quarterly information sharing. So that's an info share for families. And the next one is coming up June 25th. If you're here, so you're probably already registered for this info share, but you are encouraged to share it amongst your peers so that they can also get this information. But we do post this info share on our SDS training YouTube page, so you can always check it out there if you need to. Finally, we do have resources that are available to you, and those include provider office hours from 3 to 4. We do really encourage you to come by, and we wanted to let you know that very soon we'll actually be having our assisted living licensing will be sending a rep to our provider office hour once a month. So once we have that hammered out for you, starting in August, we'll be sharing that. So we can be a one-stop shop for you to come to that Thursday, 3 to 4 office hour and get your questions addressed about home and community-based waiver services, state plan services, general relief, or now including our licensing specialist. So please come and drop in and we're there to have a chat with you about whatever is on your mind regarding those different topics. We also have an individual and family office hour. So that's for families to come and discuss questions they have, get additional information and education on topics that are important to them. And that's offered every first and third Monday of the month over the noon hour. Finally, we have our YouTube channels that I previously mentioned, both the SDS training and policy YouTube channels. And of course, we have our training academy, which we're continuously adding content to. So that's all I have for you today. The floor is open if you have questions. Any thoughts from Kat or Damon on anything? Good to go? Okay.
Good on my end.
All
I have
right.
nothing to add.
Thanks, Damon. So here's what we'll do from here is that we'll leave the floor open for 5 more minutes and then we'll close it down. You're welcome to sign out. But if you have questions about anything that we just went over and you just need some time to think about that question, please send us an email. We can set up a one-on-one with you if you can't do the office hour. Really, our goal is to make sure that you're aware of these changes because you're going to be accountable for them as an agency starting July 1. You're going to have them implemented. So that means everything that your agency has to stop doing needs to be in effect July 1. And actions what we're starting or continuing to do, you can continue to uh, deliver those services in accordance with that flexibility that's continued.
I think folks are leaving.
Okay, well, I just hope everyone's their summer and that we'll catch you in July and that you celebrate the midnight sun solstice this week and Juneteenth and participate in all of your Alaskan adventures safely and continue to do an outstanding job delivering services to our Alaskans. Thank you. Kat, I think you're okay to
Yep.
discontinue to stop the recording.